that means is that you're going to be combining breadth and depth within the curriculum. So you are going to be asked to take classes that span the curriculum so that you explore new subjects, but you're also going to have a major that you focus in some depth. The curriculum at Lewis and Clark is really pretty adaptable. You'll see that about a third of our classes are kind of undefined elective credits. So that's useful because then it's easy to not know what you want to study when you get there, because there's plenty of time to take classes in a variety of academic subjects. But it also allows for things like majoring in 2 different subjects. So you can double major or you can major in minor. Somewhere around 70% of our students are going to have either a double major or a minor in addition to their major. So students really do like to combine different things that they're studying. Our students do hail from lots of different places. Among our student body is represented 47 US states and over 60 different nationalities. You'll find that there's also a really healthy population of what we refer to as third culture kids, which means those are students that have primarily gone to school outside of their passport country. So in addition to international students, there's quite a few students who have had quite a lot of international experience. Most of our students are coming from somewhere else, which I think can be a really great thing for our local students, because it gives you the opportunity to have the experience of meeting people from lots of different places, but without having to leave Portland to get that. You'll also note on there that the vast majority of our students are receiving some sort of financial assistance from us. So that idea of being engaged in the classroom also is attributable to the community outside of the classroom. And our students are really involved in the community, whether that's on campus through student organizations like the climbing club, the student newspaper, student government, or intramural club or varsity Division III athletics. But community also means the city of Portland, where internships and volunteer opportunities await our students. It means civic engagement on a national level and really an awareness of our place on a global scale. So whether it's being a member of the Queer Student Union here on campus or studying development and sustainability in Morocco, our students really believe that they have a responsibility to the many different communities that they are part of. I don't need to tell you as much as I do sometimes other people about the wonders of the city of Portland and our particular location in it, which I think is a real attraction for our students, that we have a campus that has the sense of being kind of far away from things. Nowhere on campus do you even realize that you're actually in a city, but we are in the city of Portland. We're about 6 miles south of the middle of downtown Portland. So in a lot of ways, our students feel like they get kind of a best of both worlds scenario with our location. Great access to all the things that come along with being in a city, but also a really tight-knit community in a place that has a pretty defined sense of space. And of course, our students, there's a lot of interest in being involved in the outdoors. As you know, there's so many opportunities to be involved in the outdoors in the Pacific Northwest. We're 3 blocks from a state park, but our college outdoors program does a fantastic job of making the outdoors very accessible to students through trips that they run as short as 1 day, but as long as 1 week over spring break. And our students really appreciate those outdoors trips. But really the piece that I think distinguishes Lewis and Clark in comparison with other small liberal arts colleges is the extent to which we've really embraced a global perspective. And you find that it's part of our general education requirements. Everybody has to fulfill a requirement in international studies. You can do that with coursework on campus. The vast majority of our students, over 60% of our students, are going to go overseas to fulfill that. Our overseas programs are pretty distinctive in that they are our programs. So you go overseas at Lewis and Clark with a group of students from Lewis and Clark and with a professor from campus. And there are a few different kinds of overseas programs, most of which are really focused on having a hands-on experiential semester. They are all semester-long programs as well. And so there's a lot of opportunities to really see new spaces and to engage on a deep level with different cultures. Our students and alumni have absolutely fantastic things to say about their experiences overseas, and it definitely is something that has a long-lasting impact for our students. We also believe that a college degree should be a 4 years. So we have a 4-year commitment. As long as you are meeting with your academic advisor every semester and you're taking an average of 16 credits a semester, you will graduate in 4 years, or we will pay for the 9th semester of classes. So that's our commitment to students, that this is 4 years. We also do have pathway programs to our Master of Arts in Teaching, which is a wonderful program. So you can do that in 1 additional year. And then we have pathway programs to our law school, including a newish program that is actually an accelerated program through the law school. So instead of 7 years to get a bachelor's in a law degree, you can actually do that in 6 years. You have to be pretty on top of it, but it can be done. As far as applications go, we are a common application school and we do not charge an application fee. We are very test optional, so take it or leave it, it doesn't matter. Test scores do not have any role to play in awarding of merit-based scholarships or anything along those lines. But you'll see that we want to see most of the same things that other schools ask for as well. And we'll make a holistic review based on the entire application file. We do have a generous merit-based scholarship program, and almost all of our students are receiving some sort of financial assistance from us, whether it's merit-based or need-based or some combination of the two. And for need-based aid, we do only require the FAFSA, no CSS profile or any additional forms required. So we're trying to make that as accessible to students as we can. So at that point, I can stop. I don't know how I did on time, but I think I did pretty well. And see if there are any questions. And I'll check in the chat to see if there's any in there. Right.
Thank you so much, Holly. And I do know specifically that someone had a question about the financial aid. And thank you for all the process, the steps that Lewis and Clark has made to make that highly accessible and easy as possible. We do know that many of the students, they run into a little bit more trouble filling out the CSS than they do the FAFSA profile, but we also understand why certain schools ask for the CSS and what that entails. So one of the questions a student had is that his sibling is currently on the Neely Scholarship, and there was a slight change in the requirements for it as far as applying early. Can you go through some of those? And is it possible that siblings can two siblings both be on the Neely Scholarship?
Yeah. The Neely Scholarship did go through a slight change this year, and the big difference that we made is that in the past, any applicant was eligible for it. So it didn't matter where you were coming from. All first-year applicants we considered for this top academic scholarship. At this point, we've actually narrowed it down, and it's only students who go to school in Northwest Oregon and Clark County, Washington are eligible at this point. So we've kind of recommitted to a more local population with that scholarship moving forward. It also is set at a slightly different level, and that's another small change that we made. So it's $50,000 a year, and we'll consider students for need-based aid in addition to it as well. But it is, because it's going to be only local students, I'm really excited for the local population to be able to have a much higher likelihood of receiving that. So yeah, you do have to apply early action or early decision at this point. And that's because the process is going to be that we're going to pre-screen some group, and then we are going to have an on-campus interview day in February, and our final selection will be made at that point. So you do have to apply by the November 1 application deadline with either early action or early decision. But I'm really excited to see more of our local students get access to that than historically has happened.
All right, thank you so much for that. And thank you also for mentioning about the study abroad program. One of our graduates, Summer Bashir, she just graduated a year ago, and she took full advantage of that and spent her time at Wildlife Refuge Park in Tanzania. So it was only amazing things to talk about that. So thank you for sharing that. I had one quick question somebody asked in the chat. Is there any special consideration for Lewis and Clark graduates for the law school program?
There is. So our pathway program does give you priority admission. So as an undergraduate student, if you apply to the law school in advance, we will admit you. And as long as you meet a set of minimum criteria, you're guaranteed admission to the law school. And that right now is actually getting, and that's been pretty hard. Admission to the law school has been pretty challenging the last few years, and it only looks like it's going to get harder. So yes, our students do have an advantage in that.
All right. There doesn't seem to be any more questions. Thank you so much for that, Holly. And students and parents, if you do have questions, you can relay them to me, and then I can be in touch with Holly, or we can have Holly's information and you can contact her directly. Thank you so much, Holly. All right. So our next representative in our next school is Pacific University, and I'm pleased to welcome back Maddie from last year, who gave us a great presentation. And as I mentioned to Maddie before, there's many people interested in specific programs at Pacific, and we are absolutely happy that you're here. And thank you for joining us today, Maddie. Maddie?
Yeah, hello. I'm so happy to be here. It's great to know that there's some students interested in physical therapy, some of those health professions. I know I've had many conversations in the college fairs that we've done in the past with students that are interested in becoming helpers in the world. So I'd love to expand more on that, but know that the conversation doesn't stop tonight. We can continue to have this, well into the application process, and even if some of you are juniors or sophomores. So I'm happy to be here tonight. So Pacific, we are pretty close to y'all. So we are in Forest Grove, Oregon. So we're kind of on the way to the coast, so about 35 minutes west of downtown Portland. So we're still local, and students that live within a 20-mile radius of campus do have the option to live at home. But we do have a 2-year living on campus requirement if you're outside of that 20-mile radius. So I'd love to drop that little piece in about living on campus, because Pacific has about 1,800 students. So we are looking at about a class of about 400 students. And so about 100 of those students come from Oregon, all over Oregon. About 100 of them come from the islands of Hawaii. And then we get about 50 from Washington, all over Washington, and the same from California and quite a few other places. So at Pacific, all of those courses are going to be taught by those professors, those teachers and mentors that are really going to challenge you and find those things that, are really going to be what make you unique, and some of those interests that you may have. This is Professor Chan. In this picture, this is a professor of chemistry at Pacific. So any of you thinking a pre-PT or any pre-med students, you'll definitely be taking some chemistry classes with her. But when she was in college, she actually double majored in dance and chemistry. So the professors at Pacific are definitely going to encourage you to have many different interests, right? To do a few different areas of study. And at Pacific, we have over 65 different areas of study. So many of you tonight might be interested in physical therapy. So at Pacific, we have, your major would probably be kinesiology. Other schools might call it exercise science or sports management. At Pacific, we call it kinesiology, and that's going to get you a nice foundation in all things motor movement. And you're also going to have an opportunity to do the pre-PT. That's where you're going to get all the classes that you need in order to apply into these physical therapy graduate programs. And we also have those for pre-med, and we've got them for pre-law, right, where you're taking these courses to prepare you for that next step. And some of the other things that are really popular at Pacific, we do have a really strong business program where students are doing management, economics, finance, entrepreneurship, and work with nonprofits. A lot of our students actually end up going into internships, those experiences outside the classroom. Many of them end up going into Nike and Intel. Some of them end up in Amazon, like our friend tonight. So there's a lot of other programs at Pacific as well. We do education for those of you who want to become a teacher in some way, as well as the performing arts and computer science. We kind of do a little bit of everything. And when you're here at Pacific, we'll ask you to do a little bit of everything. Because yes, we're going to help you get that major, find out what it is that you're interested in. But then we're also going to encourage you to take a few other things. And many of that is going to be outside of the classroom experiences, right? So how do you find what it is that you're passionate about? Maybe you have an idea right now because of some of the classes you've taken or the interests you have or the people that you know in your life that you're saying, hey, I might actually be interested, in becoming an optometrist, Or I might actually be interested, in learning more about creative writing and journalism. At Pacific, we're going to have those experiences that are outside of the classroom, oftentimes called internships and job shadows. This is a chance for you to get that hands-on learning experience. So then when you're applying to become a teacher, you're able to say, hey, when I was in the kindergarten classroom working with a group of students, this is how I was able to navigate all that energy. And really that's going to help you stand out, right? When you're going to leave Pacific, which is kind of crazy to think about right now because you're not even there yet. But at Pacific, we're going to help you get that resume so that when you take that next step, you have that degree and resume, right? You have that experience. And that's going to support you as you are navigating what it is that you're interested in, what it is that you're passionate about. So for any students that are interested in some of the programs that we do have, please feel as though you can reach out to myself directly or anyone in our community to talk more about that. And we'd love to geek out with you and hear about your interests and your passions. And that also includes the many other things about you outside of academics. Now we do have clubs that are related to academics. We've got a really strong math club that actually travels nationally and competes in different robotics tournaments. And then we have pre-professional clubs. So many of you that are thinking physical therapy, I do have a pre-physical therapy club where they're bringing in physical therapists and they're talking about the different settings that you can be in. But then I also have things that are related to nothing about school that are just cultivating who you are, right? So this is a chance for you to get to know people. They're in the performing arts. One of our largest performing of arts events on campus is our student-run luau. And you don't have to, be Hawaiian or be from the islands of Hawaii to participate in our Hawaiian luau on campus. This is a chance for you to maybe build up some skills. Maybe you want to try some of the dancing, or if you just want to be participating and kind of behind the scenes, there's always a spot for any student that wants to participate. Now, there is going to be, clubs, activities that are also related to the different identities you might have, the different cultural experiences that you want to bring to campus, different advocacy work and civic engagement. So really making some community and then taking that community and having it impact whether it's Pacific's community or the greater community. We are a part of that Forest Grove community, right? That city that we're in. We've got local farmers markets where students are helping to run it behind the scenes to support those people that are bringing in their different produce and helping them succeed as independent businesses. So at Pacific, probably most students, I would say, are doing 3 to 4 different things outside their major. So they're getting a chance to really build on those skills, definitely in leadership. We do have athletics at Pacific, whether you want to try out Division III athletics. So it's competitive, but you're not here on athletic scholarship. You can also participate in our intramural sports. This is a chance where you and your friends can get together and do a dodgeball tournament. We have 3v3 basketball, 5v5 basketball. That's probably the most competitive athletics we have on campus because students really want that winning t-shirt. So at Pacific, we will want you to get outdoors, experience all that the Pacific Northwest has to offer you, from getting in the water and the dirt to coming into Portland and doing a bike ride and getting donuts. There is a little bit of everything for our students on campus. So we're going to help you explore those interests and pursue that passion and find out what it is that really makes you you. So a big part of the conversation of college is cost, affordability, and financing your education. At Pacific, there are many scholarships that we're going to stack on top of each other. So that middle scholarship on the page, that's our academic merit scholarship. This is a scholarship that's based off of your hard work right now. So the hard work that you're doing in school, as well as some of the pieces that you'll be submitting for your common application. So an essay, a college essay. Now, this merit scholarship is renewable each and every year at Pacific, and you can stack other scholarships on top of it, like our special interest and talent awards. Now, those are going to be in the performing arts. Those are going to be in volunteer work that you may have been doing. It's going to be through some community organizations that we partner with. It's also going to be in world languages, and if you want to major in biology or math. So there are over 20 different ones, but we can stack those on top of each other. And for any of you that are seniors and do want to know more about Pacific, we are having a special event just for seniors where if you visit campus and learn more about us, you can get a scholarship for visiting. So that's our gift, right? Our gift to you for you spending your time and your effort coming to visit with us. And so if any seniors are interested, I'll be sure to follow up with a link for that event. So at Pacific, we are part of the Common Application. If you haven't heard of Common App, it's a really great resource. You sign up for a free account through commonapp.org, and you're able to actually fill out one college application that you can then take and apply to over 700 different schools with it. You're not applying to all 700, but for example, you can apply to Pacific and Lewis and Clark College with this application. And then really we're going to look at a transcript as well as a recommendation. So thinking about who might I ask, to speak to my academic success. And that's a great person to ask to write you a letter of recommendation. And Pacific is also test optional, so we will accept those scores if you'd like to send them in. They will in no way hurt you. We do not use that to deny any students, but rather use it as an opportunity to build that academic profile if you think they reflect you. So this is my contact information. I'm going to also put it into the chat. So feel free to reach out at any point in time if you do have questions. My job is to support you and be another mentor in your life through this college process, especially when it comes to all things Pacific. So thank you.
Thank you so much again, Maddie, for that presentation. And I don't believe we have any questions in the chat, but they might come in later, and your contact information is there. And thank you so much for that. And I know there are some students, both amongst the juniors and seniors, who are highly interested in Pacific University. So thank you so much, Maddie. All right. Next, we are moving on to Luke, who is going to be representing Portland State University. Luke, all yours.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Jawab, for having me. Thank you, Kareem, for the kind words about Portland State University. Again, my name is Luke Reyes-White. I'm an admissions counselor at Portland State. There are, just to give you a heads up, there are a few QR codes in the presentation. So if you have a mobile device, hopefully that's newer than mine, because apparently my camera doesn't pick up QR codes. Have that out, and there'll be some additional information you can gather through the QR code. But I just want to start with a beautiful picture of our campus. We are unique in that we're an urban public university. So we're in downtown Portland. If you haven't been to our campus, you've probably been really close to our campus, just spending time downtown. And I think one of the biggest assets that we have is the proximity to obviously the local economy as far as jobs and internships are concerned, and the connections that we can provide our students to the local industry here in the metro area. And then on top of that, obviously, if you want to live on campus, we'd love to have you live on campus, but being close to home is also an opportunity for you all to save some money if you're interested and willing to live at home as well. I'm gonna try and be pretty quick. I actually have a timer here that I'm going to start, so I can hopefully keep my time. And so if I'm speaking quickly or moving through slides fast, I apologize, but there is a link here to a digital brochure. Again, if you have your camera handy, that'll take you to a more extensive brochure of Portland State University that you can flip through. Obviously, all of this can be found on our website as well. Hopefully I've paused enough for people to capture that wanted to. This is a picture of the park box on campus. So the first picture you saw showed more of the urban feel of campus. And then we do have obviously a more traditional college campus feel where there's no vehicle traffic, a lot of green spaces, and a lot of nice gathering spaces for our students. A few things to point out: we're a lot bigger than Pacific University and Lewis and Clark. For some of you, that is not what you want. And for some of you, it may be just what you want. You know, there's going to be we're going to have more majors to offer, more resources, more cultural resource centers, perhaps a bigger athletic scene than some of the smaller liberal arts schools. And ultimately, you'll have to visit these schools and figure out what the right fit is for you, right? 20,000 students might not be the right fit for you. And we want to acknowledge that. But we do really embrace the diversity at Portland State. You can see 48% of our students come from diverse ethnic and racial backgrounds. So that's something we're really excited about. And we also have a significant international student population at PSU. I'm going to keep moving through the slides. This is the business school on campus. And then I want to talk a little bit about just the different clubs and organizations. We did, just this last year, we opened up the Manasa Student Organization, which is Middle East, North Africa, South Asia and organization. And then you'll see on the next slide all the other different student organizations. Just kidding, not the next one. These are where students are getting employed from Portland State University. So again, all the schools you're talking to tonight are for the most part are in the metro area. So there's nothing unique about being in the Portland metro area, but I do think there's a big benefit to being at an urban university, being close to the Portland metro area where a lot of the jobs are. And this just gives you a snapshot of where our graduates are finding work. Here you can see the different resource centers. I talked about Manasa there on the very bottom, but you can see the different ways that we're supporting traditionally underrepresented populations. And that's something we really pride ourselves on at Portland State. One of the ways that a big urban campus starts to feel smaller is that depending on what your major is, you'll be a part of one of these smaller schools or colleges. So you're not just going to be one student in a sea of 20,000 students. You'll be, one student in the smaller business school or the engineering school or the School of Social Work, and you're going to have a dedicated advisor within these smaller schools. So I think one of the areas of hesitation with larger public schools is that there's a lot more students. Are you going to get lost? Are you going to receive the same support? What are class sizes going to look like? We are going to have some large lecture halls, but you can see for the most part, we have pretty reasonable class sizes and a really good student to faculty ratio. If you want to get to know your professor, I promise you can. If you want to be on a first name basis with your academic advisor, you can do that as well. So it is possible. And one of the ways we do that is by breaking the larger university up into these smaller schools and colleges. As far as getting into the university, we dropped the SAT and ACT requirement prior to the pandemic, just because we didn't feel like it was a good test of students' aptitude and ability to be successful at PSU. So pandemic or no pandemic, we're not requiring SAT or ACT scores. We're just simply looking at your GPA from high school. And then the only essay questions on our application are optional. And those are for honors college consideration and then for scholarship consideration as well. So it is possible to apply to Portland State without submitting essays or SAT or ACT scores. So we do pride ourselves on being an access institution, and that's one of the ways we do that. The next most important thing that I want to talk about, we do have a lot of scholarships, but I like to be honest with students. We don't have the same foundation that some of the other colleges in Oregon have. We aren't able to give away quite as much money as other universities, but we are one of the most affordable universities in the state to begin with. So you can see if you're an Oregon resident, full-time tuition is going to be about $10,000 a year. That's not including housing. But, and there are scholarships you can get on top of that, and obviously financial aid through FAFSA and other resources as well. So that's a big benefit to being at Portland State, is just the affordability. And then, you don't have to have a car necessarily. Being in downtown Portland, it's so easy to get around. So there's a lot of ways to cut costs by attending a local public university. Just a couple of contacts here. I don't expect you to write any of this down. Just know that you can always just email admissions@pdx.edu if you want to get in touch with any of us. Don't worry about who your admissions counselor is or if you're reaching out to the right person. Again, admissions@pdx.edu will get you in touch with the right person. We do have active Instagram at @GoToPSU if you want to check out our Instagram. And then we also have preview day coming up. So we just had one this last Saturday, and then we have another one on Friday, and it happens to be preview day for high school seniors that's focusing on STEM. So if you're interested in engineering, physics, math, healthcare, then this is a great opportunity in just 4 days for this Friday. I think it's 12 to 4 in the afternoon. I apologize, I don't have the exact time, but it's this Friday. You can scan the QR code to get access to that. For any of these schools, I encourage you to visit them, until you visit them and talk to people working at the university, people that are studying there, maybe talk to a professor. It's going to be hard to know what the right fit is. We're all really different, unique colleges that have a lot to offer you. And so I thank you for your time, and I'm happy to take a couple of questions if there are any.
Thank you so much, Luke. If there's no questions from the audience, I did have a question about a program that some students who currently graduated are alums of Organizam Academy are now at Portland State, about the 4 years free policy. Can you explain a little bit more about that?
Yeah, 4 years free, and we also have a transfers finish free program. Those are specifically for low-income families, but any student who whose income qualifies you for the Pell Grant based on your FAFSA application, essentially we'll use the Pell Grant. We'll put whatever Pell Grant money you get towards your tuition, and then PSU is committed to covering any tuition that's not covered by the Pell Grant. There really is no extra hoops, no extra application. You just have to apply to the university by June 15th and then be eligible for the Pell Grant through FAFSA. So there's no separate application. If you apply to PSU by June 15th and then you fill out your FAFSA, put Portland State on it, and you're eligible for the Pell Grant, you'll automatically be eligible for that extra money through Portland State. It's not going to cover housing. That's still going to be something you'd have to cover on your own or using loans.
Do we have any other questions for Luke? I see something in the chat. Okay, I think that's it. Luke, thank you so much for joining us this year and for your presentation. And I'm sure other students will have questions later on, and then we'll pass them on to you. So thank you so much, Luke.
Yeah, thank you.
Next, we have Hui Trin from Reed College, and will present about one of our other favorite small local colleges here in the Pacific Northwest. Take it away.
Thank you so much, and you pronounced my name perfectly. That is quite a...
I'm telling you right now, I was practicing, and I was actually practicing with some, make sure I got it right, because I have had that experience myself, and I wanted to make sure that I did that. So thank you for being here.
Well, thank you so much for making the efforts. Hello, everyone. My name is Hui. I'm the Associate Dean of Admission at Reed College. I want to share with you my screen, and we're going to get on our way, and I'm going to start my timer, so we won't be wasting any second. And let me know if you cannot see my screen for any reason. So my name is Hui again. I'm the Associate Dean of Admission at Reed College. I've been here for about 7 years now. I'm originally from Vietnam, but live in Boston most of my life. Reed is a small liberal college. We are located in, of course, Portland, Oregon, in the southeast corner of the city, in the Woodstock neighborhood. We are in a very beautiful part of the city. Of course, it's very green. We're looking east right now at the Mount Hood, and there are about 116 acres on campus. We're about maybe 15-20 minutes from the downtown areas by 2 bus lines and a train line. There's a subway station. Actually, there's a light rail station, the Orange Line, pretty close to campus. Reedies, there are 1,400 of them. They come from all 50 states, 49 different countries. 30% of them are students of colors, 10% of them are internationals. So you're going to college with a very diverse students, bodies of different faiths, different backgrounds, different nationalities. They all come for many different reasons, but definitely top among them is really the academic. Reed is renowned for its academic focus. It's a college where students genuinely love learning for its own sake. Research is incredibly important at Reed. Every student must do a senior thesis in order to graduate. And every single class you take is going to be a very small class, on average about 15 students. There's a 10-to-1 student to faculty ratios. We're looking at the pictures of Biology 101. It is quote unquote the largest science class at Reed. It's taught by 3 professors, and it has a class of 50 students where they divide the class into 3 different cohorts of about 15 to 20 students each. I remember going to college at my alma mater at a much bigger universities where my physics 101 class had over 300 students, and I had like 25 TAs. That would never be the case at Reed. We don't have grad student, we don't have TA, we don't have even adjunct or part-time faculty. Every single class you have is taught by a full-time tenure or tenure track faculty at Reed. The other thing about Reed classes, they tend to be a seminar style. You are sitting in a small classroom, like I said, of 15 students on average, discussing idea, learning together, engaging. Reed is also known for its huge emphasis on gradings. We do have grades, we do have 4.0 GPA scales, all that fun stuff, but your professors don't just tell you your grade. In fact, professors almost never tell students their grade. When you get back an assignment or a paper from your professors, you get a paper written about your papers, right? And then afterward, you do what is called a paper conference, where you meet with them for over 30 minutes to an hour to talk about your work. So you get a lot of very personalized attentions from the Reed faculty. On average, each professor teaches between 30 to 50 students per semesters, right? So they get to know everyone really, really well. I mentioned earlier that Reed is very research focused. Every single student must do a senior thesis in order to graduate, but you also get a lot of funding and a lot of support to do these kind of research, right? There are over 50 research grants at the college itself, giving out hundreds of research grants to students. If you want to research climate change, for example, there's a grant for that. If you want to if you want to spend 2 months writing poetry, there's a research grant for that will help you do your creative writing process. If you want to go to CERN in Switzerland to do particle physics, there's a research grant and internship for that as well. The picture you're looking at is actually inside the nuclear reactor operators room at Reed. Reed actually has a nuclear reactors on campus. It is fully functioning. It is not, however, used to generate any kind of electricity whatsoever. It is meant to be a research reactor. So they will send sample down to the core below and kind of figure out what other chemical compositions of the reactors. Being a research reactors operator is like the coolest job on campus. It is the best paying job. And you have a federal license to operate the reactors if you pass the exam. Reed is also has a very strong focus and very strong cultures on the performing arts. The biggest building on campus is our performing art building. We have dance, theaters, and music as majors. There are 2 major black box theaters in the buildings. There are 10 different giant rehearsal spaces, studio space for students who want to make music. The other thing about Reed is that it also has a very vibrant student life. We don't have a divisional sport. We only have club sports. And so students who are on campus, they're definitely very involved in sports. That's 116 student clubs overall, ranging from what you're seeing here at the fire dancing troupe, the weapon of mass distractions, to the aero gymnastic crew, the Reed Air Force, to the cheese club, my favorite, who of course eats a lot of cheese and they're open to everyone. Being from Portland and being in the Northwest, of course, you cannot go to college without having some sort of outdoor opportunities. Reedies are definitely very involved in that. We have a ski cabin at Mount Hood, which is again open to all students year round. There's a bus that will take you from the campus during the weekend, and you can go there to hike, to mountaineer, or just hang out and play games and be with your friends as well. The Reed backpack provides all the gears and equipment, so you really don't need anything to really enjoy the outdoors that Portland brings. So 95% of our students are from out of state. So this is very much a residential college, and the dome that you have really runs the gamut. There are small houses like the garden house where you live in, very small space with a few students, and you have a very intimate living environments, to bigger apartments where you share a room or 2 with some classmates. A lot of dorms are pretty new. This is Trillium, the newest dorm on campus. This is a all freshman dorm. Every single floor has a a kitchen and a dining and a living room areas. One really cool thing about Reed is that 50% of the dorms are singles. So the likelihood of you having your own room are very high. Most of the doubles are actually divided doubles, meaning that there are two separate rooms, just like this one, that have a common exit. So here's another angle of that pictures. We believe very strongly that students should have their own personal space to kind of like, going to college is a complicated process. You're meeting a lot of people. There's a lot of things going on. So having a space for you to retreat back to meditate, to reflect, to pray, whatever it is really important to your mental health well-being as well. Reed College produced a lot of students who go to graduate school at an astronomically high rate. Over 75% of our alumni have graduate degrees. Over a quarter has a PhD. And they consistently go to the top tier medical school, business school, PhD, law programs all over the country. Of course, Lewis and Clark are a very popular destination for a lot of our students who want to go to law school. So it's UC Berkeley, UC Oregon, Chicago, NYU. For students who don't go to grad school, a lot of end up still working at universities and colleges. But outside of those, they tend to work in technology and biotechnologies, Microsoft, Portland School System, Intel, State Department, Apple's are typically the most biggest employers of Reed alumni. A little bit about the financial aid. Actually, a little bit about the admission as well. Reed is test blind until 2024, meaning we will not accept and we will not use any test score whatsoever in part of our admission process. SAT, all ACTs. We have 4 rounds of applications: early decisions 1 and 2, early actions, and regular decision. We definitely encourage students to, if they think that Reed is a top choice for them, to consider applying early decision or early actions. The admission rate does favor them in the early rounds. For example, early decision, we admit about half of the students. In regular decision, we admit about a quarter, so it gets more competitive. In terms of financial aid, Reed is incredibly generous. We spend over $30 million in grants every single year. The average financial aid is about $47,000. 91 to 94% of your financial aid package will be grants or scholarships, meaning that you do not pay back. One student who graduates from Reed after 4 years, the average student's debt is between $14,000 and $18,000 total, not per year, this is total. So we're among the most affordable and most generous college probably in the country. 1/5 of our students don't even pay tuition to go to Reed. And with that, I'll conclude my presentations, and I'm looking forward to questions.
Thank you so much for that presentation. I had a question, if no one else does in the chat. I don't think anyone else does in the chat. Can you tell us a little bit, when we visited Reed a while back, and we had a student who chose to go and was accepted at Reed, one of the interesting things that was mentioned was about the honor code system at Reed, and a lot of students found that interesting, as well as the feedback that's given on things such as papers. So can you talk a little bit about the honor code?
Yeah, absolutely. So the honor principle at Reed is really unique in that it's not even written down. It's like the British Constitution. If you have no idea what it is, it's just based on a lot of discussions. But the basis just of it is that always treat other people the way that they want to be treated, not the way that other people or you want to be treated. And so it requires a very thoughtful discussion, very interesting dialogue among different students about how to make other people feel welcome. Actually, here's a really good example. About 5 years ago, we had 2 students who were both Muslim. They came from an African country. And when they got to Reed, it was a bit of a culture shock. Like, whoa, Poland is a very different part of the country from where they used to be. And, they didn't realize that Reed dorms were co-ed, right? They're like, oh, I'm not quite comfortable with this situation. And so they share that with their RA, and the RA talk with the rest of the dorm. And at a meeting, and the student was like, hey, we want to make our friends and classmates feel welcome. And how do we do that? Well, the entire dorm decided to rearrange into single-sex dorm. So 2 floors will actually move, they already move in, and they move all back out, and then they switch the dorms and make it into a single-sex dorm to help these 2 students, feel welcome. And again, they didn't have to do that. There was not like asked of them, but the student themselves decided to make this really important gesture to make their the classmates feel welcomed. It also involves, being very thoughtful about education. For example, students that read don't have proctors when they do exams or tests. When professors give them an exam, they take them home, go to the park, find a nice spot to sit down, and the professor trusts that they don't, use Wikipedia or any kind of like unauthorized aid to do the homework or their test, for example.
Thank you so much for that. And it goes in with the read philosophy, and very unique and challenging that we know, but very rewarding. One of our students asked if Papa is still there. He was the representative.
Papa is no longer, he graduated. He's now working at a consultant for a financial firm. So he's no longer working in the admission office, but thanks for asking.
Okay. Our students give the regards. He encouraged me. Yes, Adil, we thank you for that question. And thank you so much for presenting. And we're really glad you could be here with us tonight and tell us about Read. Thank you. All right, our next presenter is back again from last year's, Ben from the University of Washington. Ben, it's all yours.
Perfect. Hey, thanks so much. And thanks for being here tonight, everyone. My name is Ben Siegel. I use he, him pronouns. I'm an admissions counselor at the University of Washington. So I think the only one coming from out of state today. So just excited to share a little bit more about the UW. I'm also a UW alum myself. So just sharing about Seattle and that student experience as well. As I go today, if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat, big or small, and I'll try to tackle those as I go today or right after I present in that Q&A time. So feel free to ask away, but I'll go ahead and get rolling here. First thing I want to get started with is just where we're located. We are in Seattle, Washington, so just about 3 hours north in Seattle. As you maybe can see from that image in the top left, we're just a few miles north of downtown Seattle, so you can see the Space Needle, the downtown skyline out there. We have 2 different light rail stations right on campus. That's kind of like our subway in Seattle. You can get downtown in 10, 15 minutes. So I think a lot of students enjoy that from the standpoint of taking advantage of everything the city has to offer, be that catching a Seahawks game, going to a concert, checking out different food and neighborhoods around Seattle. As well from like a job and internship standpoint. Seattle is a booming city and so many students get involved off campus with internships. So I'll touch on it a little bit as well. The image on the right side, I think kind of shows where our campus is located as it relates to nature. We're right on the shores of Lake Washington. You can see Husky Stadium, our football stadium right there, as well as the Cascade Mountains are about an hour or so away. So a lot of our students enjoy, going for a bike ride or a run on the Berkman Trail, which cuts through campus, going hiking, skiing, snowboard down in the mountains, which is about an hour or so away, or going canoeing out in Lake Washington. So definitely that location, being in the city, while at the same time not right in the middle of the city, is I think something a lot of students appreciate. Flipping over to the academic side of things, we have about 180 different majors at the UW. So as a large school, as you can imagine, there's a little bit of everything you could study. That ranges anything from computer science to Spanish to comparative history ideas to business. There's a little bit of everything at the UW, and you truly have the opportunity to come and explore your different interests before deciding on which pathway you want to take. You're not just sitting inside the classroom all day, every day. As noted in the bottom right-hand corner there, the UW receives more federal funding for research than any other public institution in the US. So we're an outstanding research institution. If you're interested in pursuing research in college, UW's a great place to do so. And just something I want to highlight really quickly is that research could happen in a lab on campus. One of my roommates who's off in medical school right now, he did research just off campus. It was through a UW program, a kind of cancer research is my best way to put it. Generally, I had another friend who's interested in studying environmental sciences, and she was at our Friday Harbor Labs in the San Juan Islands for about 3 months during her time at the UW. So right on the shores of the Puget Sound, UW has a facility up where students can live, do research, take classes out in the Puget Sound, Pacific Ocean. So your learning extends well beyond Seattle and well beyond just the classroom here. 15 years to community on campus. I'm not sure if it's cut off for you all, but at the top there, we have nearly 1,000 different student clubs on campus, incredible variety in there. And that can be anything ranging from like Pre-Law Society to the Black Student Union, to the Husky Running Club, to the Human versus Zombies Club. There truly is a little bit of everything in those clubs, but a great way to build those smaller communities on campus and meet folks with similar passions as yours. Another way a lot of students will build community and make friends is through housing. So we have lots of different residence halls or dorms on campus. About 80% of our freshmen choose to live on campus, but you're never required to do so. So if you want to live off campus in an apartment or a house with friends or family, you're welcome to do so at any time throughout your UW experience. Last couple of things, you see that freshman retention rate in the bottom left-hand corner. I think just indicative of our student support services. We want students to be successful here academically, and that could be, say, meeting with professors during office hours, going to different tutoring centers to get that academic support. But also, that could also be going to Hall Health to take care of any medical needs. That could be an annual checkup, that could be meeting with a mental health counselor one-on-one, but lots of different ways where you can support yourself from that academic standpoint, but as well as like a health standpoint too. Bottom right-hand corner there, average time to graduation is 4 years from the UW. And within 6 months after graduation, 81% of our students are employed or within graduate school. And here's just some of our top employers of UW graduates. I think something that I take for granted sometimes, someone who grew up in Seattle and went to UW, is you have so many amazing employers and companies right in your backyard here in Seattle, like Microsoft, Amazon, obviously have their headquarters right in the backyard, Boeing, just maybe 30 minutes or so north of Seattle, as well as also different hospitals and medical facilities in the greater Seattle area. Just for reference, about 70% of our students do graduate with internship experience. We have a career and internship center on campus, really there to support students with resumes, cover letters, job search, even do mock interviews with students. So as Kareem mentioned a little bit, go to those career and internship fairs when they are on campus, as well as you're always like 5-10 minutes away from just connecting with these employers off campus, be it a volunteer, shadowing opportunity, or an internship itself. That's just UW in a quick little nutshell. I do want to shift gears to our admissions process here. So the one and only way to apply to the UW is through the Coalition application. This is a shared application platform with about 150 different colleges and universities around the country. This is open to you all to start at any time throughout high school. There's this profile section, more general information about yourself. You can start at any time. And then you have the UW questions section, which opens up on September 1st of your senior year, more specific UW questions about first and second choice major, essays, those kind of things. So all within the Coalition application. We have an application fee of $80, but you can qualify for a fee waiver. So there's a section, if you can check a box that you qualify for free and reduced lunch, the Pell Grant, SAT, ACT fee waiver, you'll get that UW app waived or app fee waived. Really quickly here, a few things that we do not look at. We do not look at letters of recommendation, so no need to send them. We do not ask for transcripts. You will be self-reporting all of your coursework and grades on the UW application. And last but not least, we are test optional at the UW. So not required at all to send SAT, ACT scores to the UW. Those test scores, if you do decide to send them, they're never going to hurt you. They can only help you in our review process. That's how to apply to the UW, thinking about what we look for in terms of the application. And we kind of have these two different pillars of our holistic review process. And I think in short, holistic review means that we want to get to know you as a whole person. For sure, academic preparation performance will be our primary pillar in our holistic review process, but that's not going to tell the full story about who you are as a student, who you are as a person. So that's why we have that personal achievements and characteristics pillar as well in our review process. Just in short, on the academic side of things, we're just looking for students who are challenging themselves throughout high school. We look at things like grade trend as well. So if there was, say, early on in high school, struggle a little bit, but grades have really improved, those are things that we love to see. But just challenging yourself with the opportunities available to you is kind of one of the key components of what we're looking for on the academics. On the personal side, we have a personal statement, kind of that key core college essay about yourself, talking about kind of what are those traits or characteristics or experiences that define you, who you are as a person. We have a short response essay where students reflect on the communities that they come from and how they may contribute to the community and diversity on the UW campus. We say community, that could be your family, that could be a cultural group, that could be your school, that could be your neighborhood, that could be a club, a sports team. There's so many different ways to define that. I think just in short, at the UW, we strive to have a community of students from a wide variety of backgrounds, perspectives, and experiences, and really value all those things that you write about in those essays. Last but not least, we do have an activity log, so club, sports, jobs, volunteer work, family commitments, just however you're involved outside of school. Just know we're looking at all those different aspects of you in our application review process. Just some quick statistics here. You can see our admit rates by residency on the left side there. Then on the right side, that's our middle 50 percentile GPA range for admitted students. So 3.73 to 3.96. Hopefully that helps a little bit as maybe you're gauging where UW falls in your college list. But just for reference, 25% of our students admitted to the UW have below a 3.73, 25 had above a 3.96 this last year. That's just kind of the middle 50% chunk there. Quick timeline here as well. Our one and only application deadline is November 15th, as you can see in gold there. So no early action, no early decision at the UW. November 15th is our one and only application deadline. So I know coming up quick. So be sure to apply if you are interested in the UW. As a little side note there, filing the FAFSA or WASFA for financial aid. FAFSA is for like US citizens, permanent residents. If you have like a social security number, fill out the FAFSA. WASFA, you might see it on my next couple slides here, but that's for Washington residents who are undocumented. So just wanted to mention that really briefly. But again, November 15th is our one and only application deadline. Cost of attendance, on the left side, you can see Washington resident tuition. On the right side, non-Washington resident tuition is just under $40,000 for one full academic year. Other costs below their associated costs associated with being a student. So right around $58,000 for one full academic year. That's prior to any financial aid accessed by way of the FAFSA, as well as prior to any scholarship. So Husky Promise and Presidential Scholarship, those are for Washington resident. I'm just gonna take 10 seconds to go over the Purple and Gold Scholarship really quick. But essentially all out-of-state applicants are automatically considered for the Purple and Gold Scholarship. It's based on the holistic review of your application. So looking at your academics as well as your personal achievements and characteristics. Scholarship amounts this last year range from about $3,000 to a little over $8,000. That's renewable for up to 4 years. And for reference, just under 70% of our admitted out-of-state students were awarded the Purple and Gold Scholarship in some capacity. So a good one to keep on your radar for sure. But that was all I have today. I want to make sure I'm getting through that pretty quick there. Again, I'm Ben Siegel. I'm one of the admissions counselors at the UW and specifically the guy for Oregon. So I'm more than happy to be of support with any questions y'all have, be it about the application process or the UW. If I don't know the answer, I'm more than happy to connect you all with folks on campus or a student who can best answer your question as well. I'll stop sharing my screen here. Happy to chat through any questions you all have. And I'll also just drop one link in the chat for my contact information and then just another link that essentially is a way to connect with us moving forward. But again, thank you all for having me tonight.
Thank you so much again, Ben, for that presentation. We did have one question, and this is a question that's come up a lot. Is there any way for a student who's a non-resident to gain residency in Washington? That's been one of the questions. Multiple students have had UW on the radar, but the cost was prohibitive. In that sense, is there any way to gain residency for a non-resident student?
Yeah, great question. And yes, it is possible. I think in short, students must live in Washington continuously for 12 months prior to the quarter they're hoping to establish residency at the very minimum. But also students need to essentially like cut ties with their previous state and establish ties in Washington. So that could be like registering to vote, getting like a Washington driver's license or ID, lease or home agreement, open a bank account, those kind of things. And then some of the other pieces as well. If a student's family is moving up to Washington, a bit easier to establish residency as a dependent student than it would be to establish residency as an independent student. Essentially, you need to show that you're coming here for more than just resident or tuition purposes. You need to show that you're kind of coming here to Washington as a as something besides just education and something besides student. So I can drop a little link in the chat as well, and happy to connect as any other individual questions come up.
All right. Thank you so much, Ben, for that wonderful presentation again. And last but not least, we have Zaytuna College. This is the third or fourth consecutive year that we've had Zaytuna present with us. And I'm going to turn it over to Zaytuna.
Thank you so much. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. My name is Claudia. Let me adjust that here, actually. But yeah, so I, inshallah, will go over Zaytuna College. I think we're the only school here that is not from the Pacific Northwest region. So we are kind of the only ones who are a little further off away, but inshallah, we will give you a good sense of what we have to offer, and hopefully entice some of you to apply. So here we go. So here at Zaytuna College, so we can see the screen. So here at Zaytuna, we have a unique mission where we focus. Our aim really is to educate and prepare students to be morally committed and prepared professionally, intellectually, and spiritually as leaders who are grounded in the Islamic tradition, as well as conversant in the scholarly, in modern currents and conversations that are going shaping society. And so here's just a little breakdown of the traditional madrasa approach, which is focused on moral commitment, leadership, spiritual, intellectual growth, the Islamic scholarly tradition. Then we have the Western, kind of school, which is again focused on developing professionally, intellectually, and developing you so that you can be conversant in modern currents. And what we do is we bring both of these wonderful models together and really synthesize something that is quite wonderful, which is bringing the best of both, the Western kind of model that we've heard so much about this night, of all these different, opportunities that it created, all these different approaches, really getting, developed and geared up in the American psyche and the American culture and living here, but also grounding us in the Islamic tradition as something that's part of the larger faith tradition that we belong to. And as a liberal arts college, we focus on the Islamic arts through this as well. So using grammar, logic, and rhetoric as part of the tools, not only for the Western tradition, but also the Islamic tradition that we teach at Zaytuna College. So really focusing, again, on the trivium as being a key cornerstone of how we, develop and build our curriculum and enhance our students to understand not just the Western tradition, but also the Islamic tradition. Because we believe that liberal arts is not solely part of the Western tradition, that Muslims had a huge role to play in this, and we have a long history of using these tools as well in our own intellectual history. And so here's just a sampling of some courses that we teach, the Islamic and the Western tradition. This is not so much a dichotomy, but just more so the general groupings that you will see. So, on the Islamic tradition side, you're going to have Arabic, Islamic law, contemporary Muslim thought. In the Western tradition, the basic building blocks of economics, rhetoric, and comparative theology. One interesting thing to note is Zaytuna is a 4-year program, but our graduates leave with about 6 years worth of Arabic. And so you must be asking yourself, how do you do that? And we highly emphasize Arabic at our program. So students either take Arabic the summer before, starting at Zaytuna College, and as sophomores, they take it after, as rising sophomores, they take it the summer after the freshman year. So students can either place out of the first Arabic intensive that's before their freshman year if they pass the Arabic assessment, or they go through the summer Arabic intensive, which is a really wonderful actually way to learn Arabic. It's a bit intense, but it is quite immersive, and students really do appreciate and enjoy their experience there. And who else to kind of teach these courses besides our wonderful faculty at Zaytuna College? So we really try to emphasize having both traditions and Zaytuna, with professors like Dr. Omar Qureshi, who is also the provost. His work, his PhD, was on the identity of religious colleges in the West and how they define themselves. So him leading us at the Hull is quite wonderful, seeing someone who has a strong understanding of this topic. From the Islamic tradition side, we have Sheikh Faraz, who has studied in Jordan for a number of years, has really learned, has really grown with the Islamic tradition, and is a wonderful teacher in these subject matters. Dr. Ismail Yusuf, he's a PhD in mechanical engineering from Stanford, teaching us science courses, history of math, astronomy. And Father Francisco, coming from the Catholic faith tradition, teaching us, we have really the honor of learning from him because he's taught in so many schools across the U.S. He actually, surprisingly enough, taught my older cousin back in Boston at his high school. So it's he's very, very profound in his just kind of plethora of things he's taught and his ability to relate to students with the kind of level and the prowess he brings in, which a lot of faculty actually do appreciate and learn from him as well, given his just extensive knowledge. Moving on, here we have at Zaytuna, and what I love so much is some of the schools here in the Pacific Northwest talked about the outdoors and how wonderful it is. And I've only visited, and I do love Portland, but is beautiful, outdoors there, and we try to have our own holistic learning at Zaytuna, and we do so through the Sunnah sports. So swimming in your freshman year, where you learn to really focus on developing your own skills in a controlled environment. Moving on to archery your sophomore year, where you are in an open environment, relying on a tool to accomplish a goal. And finally, juniors learn horseback riding, where you work with another animal, another being, to really accomplish, accomplish the same goal. So really navigating not just your own limitations in an open environment, but the intrapersonal, if you can call it, skills learned there. Senior year is really focused on the thesis, so it's not there's no fourth sport, but they're allowed to kind of go back and enjoy themselves. So our campus is actually, I would say, is quite beautiful. We have, I think, probably the closest thing to the Pacific Northwest in California. We are located in Berkeley, California. One of our campuses is right next to UC Berkeley, which I'll go into a little bit later, and how that position is wonderful. And then this is where the Brothers Dorm will be. It's called the lower campus. So it's the Brothers Dorm, faculty buildings, and the master's school. And the master's classes are held here. And the upper campus, and this is actually a very beautiful plot of land that we were able to secure. It's about 9 or 8 buildings over 9 acres. So it's very large. And this is where the sisters dorms are held. This is where the dining halls are. This is where the undergraduate classes are held. So it's very beautiful, and alhamdulillah, we have been able to return our students to campus with safety protocols for COVID. And so it is very, very beautiful place to learn and to be really surrounded with students and other people of knowledge. And let's see. Okay, so the neighborhood. So this is really kind of where you see the other position coming in. So we're very close to UC Berkeley, where I went to school, and that's how I got to know Zaytuna. So UC Berkeley has the 4th largest library in the country, I believe. Main stacks, and it says 13 million volumes that you can access as a Zaytuna student. Several of our students will also enroll in Berkeley Extension courses while at Zaytuna. Also next door is the Graduate Theological Union, which is a huge consortium of religious colleges in the West, and also something great to be a part of, having access to their libraries. And a unique feature of Zaytuna is that we are a cohort system. So you begin and end with the same set of students. So your spiritual life is very wonderful. You develop a community with students who are as motivated as you are spiritually, religiously, intellectually. You grow with them, you live with them. And so you develop bonds that are lifelong and beyond, just 4 years. And at the end, we do promise our students a community service project where they engage and they practice a lot of what we've taught them in terms of all the character development and moral commitment to actually go and practice this. And they do that. So our alumni also vary, kind of all, choosing PhD programs. Some chose law school, others chose medical school. So it's quite varied as well. There's a lot of opportunity. I want to touch on aid, which is very important, because at Zaytuna, we are a very generous college. We ensure that we meet all the needs of all financial needs of our students. We cover, 95% of our students are on some sort of financial aid. We only do in-house grants. So we don't take FAFSA, but our program is so generous that, we would benchmark ourselves against the Stanfords and Harvards that are extremely generous, big endowment schools. We are need blind when it comes to admissions process. So we do not look at the need or the financial ability of a student, only the merit when applying. And we really want to kind of get the best students and really want to cultivate them without having them worry about how much school is going to cost. And finally, I'll just close with the admissions process. So we have, it's a few easy steps. You have the essays. I recommend you start early, get a lot of feedback. This is how you set yourself apart from other candidates. We have standardized tests. We have brought them back because we felt that they really help enhance our candidates' ability to, get into Zaytuna. It really actually helps our candidates. So we brought them back. The SAT, CLT, or ACT, we accept all of them. We have letters of recommendation, so instructors who can speak to your academic capabilities. It's very important for us to see that. We have waived community service because of COVID being a thing and still being present. And finally, transcripts are super important as well. So we want to see the academic history and something to speak to the academic rigor, because we are a very rigorous college and we do invest a lot in our students financially and in a lot of other ways with very small class sizes. Some of them, being just 5-6 students if it's a preceptorial. So really developing that student is important. So we only want to have the strong set of students coming in. We don't have a set GPA requirement, but generally above a 3.0 is great. Above 3.5 is wonderful. We don't take a holistic look at our applicants. So I'll leave it there. If there's any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Thank you so much, Brother Khoja. There was a question that was in the chat. It says,
Okay.
The person asked, does Zaytuna College have pre-college programs or studies in the summer for high school students?
Oh man. So I know we used to have something of that sort. COVID did do a number on us when it came to that. So we are hopefully looking to reinstate something of that sort. As of now, unless you can audit a course, unfortunately, it's very difficult to be part of Zaytuna. We do highly emphasize in-person instruction just because of how much we grow with our instructors and our students together.
Okay. There was another question that asked, for the graduate who went on to med school, were they able to just apply to med school after attending Zaytuna? How are we able to apply for external programs like law or med school if Zaytuna doesn't offer science courses, etc.? Yeah,
so for law schools, you can apply directly out of Zaytuna. We do generally cover everything that is needed. One point is there was actually a law school in Chicago, Urbana-Champaign, that reached out to us after our student attended there for about a year or two and said, please send more of your students because we love how strong her abilities are in the legal field and in law school. For medical school, it's a bit more difficult. Yes, we don't entirely offer those courses. So students do take Berkeley extension courses while they're at Zaytuna, or they would have done the prereqs beforehand, or otherwise they take another year. And we're developing a track for them right now to really allow for that extra 5th year for students to really develop and build up their resume when applying to medical programs. So it is in the works and it has been done before. So if you have any questions, you can always reach out to me. I'll drop my email and I will connect you with our track developers and other students who've gone through the program.
Okay, and I think that was it right there. If you have any other questions, now's the time. You can ask any of the reps who are still here. And if not, I want to thank each and every single one of you who came to attend our webinar this evening. And especially I want to thank the representatives who came and took the time in their evening to join Oregon Islamic Academy tonight. You guys did an incredible job again. And students always talk about their interest in the different programs, the little different things that they pick up from the presentations, like the humans versus zombie tag that you might have seen in Ben's presentation and all the other different things that we saw from all the great colleges. Thank you so much and have a great evening. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam.
Thank you.